Ethan Carter was the kind of man who had everything: wealth, power, and the world at his feet. As the CEO of a billion-dollar tech company, his name was synonymous with success. Yet, beneath the polished image and tailored suits, he carried a wound that had never healed: the absence of his mother. She had disappeared when he was just 7 years old. His father, a ruthless businessman, had always told him she abandoned them. She was weak, Ethan, his father had said. She couldn't handle this life. Over time, Ethan buried the pain, convincing himself he didn't need a mother who had left him behind. But fate had other plans. A fateful encounter. One evening, exhausted from back-to-back meetings, Ethan found himself in a small diner on the outskirts of town. It was the kind of place he would normally never step into: greasy counters, flickering lights, and the smell of fresh coffee mixed with fried food. He only stopped because his driver insisted he needed to eat. As he sat at the corner booth, scrolling through emails, a soft voice interrupted him. "Welcome to Betty's Diner. What can I get you?" Ethan looked up, and his world stopped. The woman standing before him had aged, her face marked by time and hardship. But there was no mistaking those eyes. The same warm, brown eyes that had once sung him lullabies and wiped away his tears. His mother. His hands trembled. His throat tightened. He wanted to speak, to ask 1,000 questions, but no words came out. "Sir?" she asked, tilting her head. She didn't recognize him. Ethan cleared his throat. Just coffee," he mumbled. As she walked away, he felt a whirlwind of emotions: anger, confusion, sadness. How had she ended up here? Why hadn't she come back for him? The truth unveiled. Ethan stayed in the diner long after his coffee had gone cold, watching her, studying her. Finally, as the last customers left, he gathered his courage and approached the counter. "Excuse me, but, do you remember Ethan Carter?" he asked hesitantly. She froze. Slowly, she turned to him, and for a moment, it seemed like she couldn't breathe. Then, tears welled in her eyes. "Ethan?" Her voice cracked. His heart pounded. "It's me, Mom." A sob escaped her lips, and she covered her mouth, shaking. "Oh my God, my baby." Tears blurred Ethan's vision. "Why did you leave me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. She reached for his hands, her own trembling. "I never left you, Ethan. I was taken from you." And then, the truth unraveled, a truth more painful than he could have imagined. His father, cold and calculating, had cast her out when she refused to sign over her share of his company. She had fought for Ethan, but his father, a man of immense influence, had made sure she disappeared. Left with nothing, she had spent years trying to find her way back to her son, but every door had been shut in her face. "I never stopped looking for you," she cried. "I prayed for you every day." Ethan's world shattered. Everything he had believed about his mother was a lie. A decision that changed lives. He pulled her into a tight embrace, years of pain melting away in that single moment. "You don't have to struggle anymore," he whispered. "Come with me." She hesitated. "Ethan, I don't need your money. I just needed to see you one last time." He shook his head. "It's not about money. It's about giving you the life you always deserved." The next day, Ethan made the biggest announcement of his life. He stepped down as CEO, appointing a trusted partner in his place. Instead of boardrooms, he dedicated his time to something greater, helping the countless people who, like his mother, had been cast aside by society. As for his mother, she didn't just leave the diner, she became the heart of his new mission. Together, they opened shelters, provided jobs, and gave second chances to those who had none. A full circle of love. Months later, on the opening night of their first foundation, Ethan stood before a crowd, holding his mother's hand. "I once believed success was measured by wealth," he said. But the greatest success is finding your way back to the people who love you. Tears streamed down his mother's face as she squeezed his hand. In the end, it wasn't the billions that made Ethan rich, it was the love he had found again. And that was worth more than anything in the world.